Britain's railways have always been built on technology, and since Victorian times, locomotive design has come a long way. Some engines stand out from the rest, ancient or modern, large or small. They are the great trains, classic designs which define an era and capture the imagination. Since 1836, the dramatic mountains of North Wales have been home to the Festiniog Railway. At first, horses and gravity served the line. Then, in 1863, Charles Spooner commissioned the first steam engines from George England of London. The Festiniog Railway became the first public narrow gauge railway in the world and prospered for over a century. In 1988, the railway held a special gala weekend starring one of the original locomotives. This is Prince, one of the world's oldest steam locomotives still in service, resplendent in her red company livery. The Festiniog was built to carry slate from the quarries at Blaenau Festiniog to the sea at Porthmadog. Slate traffic slumped between the wars, and in 1946 the line closed. Just 8 years later, restoration began, and finally the whole line was reopened for passengers. Prince is a 2-foot gauge, 4-wheeled, 4-coupled saddle tank with a separate coal tender built at the cost of £800. She has 2-foot diameter wheels and a 4-foot 6-inch wheelbase. The side tanks were unusual for the period, but helped with traction by adding to the adhesive weight. In service, Prince hauled 50-ton trains up the line at an average speed of 10 or 11 miles per hour. Part of the secret of her success was the high steam pressure of 120 pounds per square inch. (1990) and another gala celebration. At Minford Yard, Prince prepares for the day's duties. In the early years of the railway, the empty wagons were pulled up by horses and the loaded trains rolled down on their own by gravity. Today, one of these historic gravity workings is recreated on the section between Minford and Gwyndy. But first, Prince must pull the wagons up the line. The brakemen clamber aboard as Prince waits for possession of the line. The wagons are uncoupled to descend Gwyndy Bank alone. Speed is controlled by the brakemen who perch on the sides. Prince follows at a discreet distance behind. Having finished with the wagons, Prince is assigned to a shuttle working with Mary Ann, one of the first diesel locomotives built by Motor Rail in 1917. The Great Western Railway had a long tradition of multi-purpose tank locomotives. Many variations of saddle tanks and pannier tanks were produced at Wolverhampton and Swindon round the turn of the century. Eventually, there were well over 1,000 examples in service. The first of the 5700 class emerged from the North British and the Swindon Works in 1929, produced under the direction of the Chief Mechanical Engineer, Mr. Charles Collett. The 5700 class was an immediate success. Here, on the Keighley and Worth Valley Railway, is number 7752, built for the Great Western in 1930 by North British. This became the standard Great Western Pannier tank, a tremendously versatile engine, and Britain's most numerous steam locomotive. By 1950, no less than 863 had been built. The Keighley and Worth Valley is a short preserved branch line in the Yorkshire Pennines, typical of the type of line which the locomotive would have worked with the Great Western. By the early 1990s, number 7752 had returned to Great Western Territory and was working out of Buckfastleigh on the South Devon Railway. These pannier tanks were very powerful for their size, free-running and with excellent acceleration. They are ideal for these short lines, and many preserved examples are still in regular service all over the country. Haworth Yards, back at the Worth Valley. After some years in preservation, number 5775 was in need of a major overhaul. This was one of the original members of the class, built in Swindon in 1929. The original boiler was beyond economic repair, and so a replacement was obtained from the famous Barry scrapyard. .5775 was sold to the London Underground and acquired by the Worth Valley in the late 1960s. Merlin, a Hudswell Clark diesel shunter, pulled the frames out into the yard so that they could be married to the new boiler. The frames had also been overhauled. This operation provided an unusual view of the motion. Next, there had to be a thorough boiler test. Cornhill Insurance Inspector Ian Stocks explains the process.
We'll take the boiler up very gently to its normal working pressure, perhaps just test the safety valve for a few seconds and then let it quietly cool off again before it's returned to its frames, and then we will obviously do another steaming test then.
As the boiler pressure rises, volunteers wait for the safety valves to lift. Test over, the result is announced.
Ian Stocks, Cornhill Boilerman's passed it A-OK. We've just got a bit of sorting out to do, and then boiler's going back in frame as soon as we can. Won't be long till it's running again.
Right, great news.
5775 also starred in the 1970 Stream classic, The Railway Children. 20 years later, the Pannier tank was restored to her unique film livery as the Worth Valley staged a dramatic reenactment.
Well, look, you have to excuse me, old man, because I'm very busy, because you see, Station Master's gone to Leeds to have his hair cut, and Perks must be about it.
Perks? Who's Perks?
Me, sir, I'm Perks.
You must be Roberta. And Phyllis. And Peter, of course. I'm very pleased to meet you all.
A few months later, after further repairs, the Pannier tank is tested under load up the line. When British Rail abandoned steam, some of the Pannier tanks were sold to the London Transport Executive for use on permanent way and engineering trains. L99, originally number 7715, was one of these London Transport Pannier tanks, now preserved at the Buckinghamshire Railway Centre. L99 was built for the Great Western in 1930 by Kerr Stewart and Company of Stoke-on-Trent. One of a batch of 25, she cost £3,160, and for most of her life she worked on China clay and other freight traffic in Cornwall. After 26 years in preservation, she's now restored to mainline running and appears on regular steam on the Met specials. The Great Western Society operates number 3738 from its preserved railway centre at Didcot. 3738 was a later model, built in 1937. Modifications included an improved cab and a top feed to the boiler. When Sir William Pannier came to the London, Midland and Scottish Railway in 1934, one of his first jobs was to produce a new 10-wheel tender locomotive. The legendary Black Fives were the most efficient design of general-purpose mixed-traffic engines ever built in Britain. A total of 842 were completed between 1934 and 1951. They were found practically everywhere in the British Isles, but were particularly prevalent on the territory of their native LMS. The Black Five was always common in Scotland, and a number of preserved examples have found a home there. We start at Bowness on the 1st of 4th, as Sovereign number 44871 prepares for her day's duties. Since 1979, this has been the base for the Scottish Railway Preservation Society, who have created their home on a greenfield site. Sovereign was built in 1945 at Crewe Works and is one of the 17 survivors. As universal maids of all work, they were invaluable. All were still in service until 1959. Members of the class survived in the northwest of England until the very last days of British Rail steam in 1968. It's a cold morning and the points are stiff as Sovereign departs for Birk Hill. On a busy weekend, the carriages can be full, with 300 passengers on each train. Birk Hill Station is only a few years old. Passenger trains terminate here, but beyond, the line joins the Edinburgh-Glasgow main line. The original railway once served a great centre of industry, which produced iron, coal, timber and clay. It has all disappeared, and the line now provides a service for visitors. A modified Black 5 design was later adopted by British Rail as one of its 12 standard types. Another 172 of these British Rail 5MTs were built, but they were never as popular with the enginemen as the original Black 5. Kinneil Halt, once a terminus, is now only a request stop, and trains rarely pause on their way down the line. The dock near here was once a busy harbour with hoists to tip coal directly from the railway wagons into the holds of waiting ships. Sovereign is also kept busy with mainline operations. On a misty November day in 1993, the first steam for over 10 years ran between Stirling and Inverness, thanks to a special excursion organised by ScotRail and the Scottish Railway Preservation Society. The Highland Main Line runs for 118 miles from Perth to Inverness, and although never electrified, it's rare to see preserved steam on this line. Sovereign was the ideal choice of locomotive, as the Black Fives were once familiar sights on the Highland Line. North of Perth, the old Highland Railway follows the River Tay and the Tummel until the line branches north through the narrow defile of Killiecrankie. Here, Sovereign clings to the steeply wooded hillside before plunging into the Killiecrankie Tunnel. Between Blair Athol and Dalwhinnie, the line is double track and steepens to 1 in 70 on a 16-mile long climb. At Dalnacardoch, near the start of the ascent, Sovereign climbs into the mist and has to work hard to maintain momentum. The summit of Dromochdal is still a demanding task, and at 1,484 feet it is the highest summit in the country. Having arrived at Dalhousie, Sovereign takes a brief rest. The pause provides an opportunity to see this splendid locomotive at close quarters, and dozens of people have gathered on the platform to watch her depart. But first, she must wait for a northbound diesel express. Since preservation, Sovereign has also worked the West Highland Line, as well as travelling south to take part in the anniversary run of the famous 15 Guinness Special. Black fives can also be found in England. On the Great Central Railway, number 5231 is being used to provide driver experience courses. Built in 1936, this was one of the last Black fives to be withdrawn, and she's been returned to her original LMS livery.
K4 or one of these?
Throughout the 1920s and 1930s, Richard Maunsell produced a number of simple and reliable locomotives which worked throughout the entire Southern Railway system, and many of their features were adopted as standard practice. Today, they can still be seen operating on the wonderfully restored Bluebell Railway. Q-Class number 541 is the sole survivor of her class. As people arrive at the station, 541 waits to work the first passenger train of the day. Since her arrival on the Bluebell in 1978, 541 has undergone extensive restoration. This has enabled her to clock up some of the highest mileages on the railway. The Q-Class is an 060 tender locomotive, intended for goods and light passenger duties, and was the last of Richard Maunsell's locomotive designs. Introduced in 1938, 20 were built. The last member of the class was withdrawn in 1965. Leaving Sheffield Park, the line heads north through Horsted Quays. In common with most goods engines, Q-Class locomotives settled down to quiet but useful lives away from the public eye. Number 541 was based at Guildford, Horsham and Bournemouth. Withdrawn in 1964, she found her way to Woodham's scrapyard at Barry. She was rescued in 1973 and returned to steam 10 years later. Horsted Keynes, until 1990, was the terminus of the line, and number 541 pulls slowly into the platform before running round a train. Back at Sheffield Park, U-Class number 1618 is fired up in preparation for her day's duties.
You're running trouble. An extra 5 minutes spent here makes her for an easy day.
You know what you're doing?
But we put one on here for ease of disposal.
Number 1618 was also designed by Richard Mansell and built in Brighton in 1928. Nicknamed U-boats, these U-class moguls became standard mixed traffic locomotives throughout the entire Southern Railway system. Although only the second engine to be rescued from the renowned scrapyard in Barry, number 1618 had to wait until 1977 before a move to the Bluebell enabled her to enter regular service again.
Well, I like driving the U-Class. It's a very easy machine to drive. It's very economical. It does whatever we wanted to do. But I haven't really got any favourites. I'm quite willing to have a go on any steam engine. One day someone said, oh, there's a steam railway starting up, the Bluebell Railway, and I came along. That was back in 1960. And eventually I drifted into the loco department because that's really what I wanted to do. And I worked my way through from cleaner, fireman, for a senior fireman, and eventually to driver. And that's what I am now.
Mansell's locomotive policy predated that of British Rail by nearly 30 years. He wanted a minimum number of classes with wide route availability and maximum component standardization. The U-class were derived from the earlier 264 River-class tank engines, which were rebuilt following a number of derailments, culminating in a particularly serious one at Sevenoaks in August 1927. Although the U-class mainly worked passenger trains, including on the secondary lines out of Waterloo, this was really a mixed traffic locomotive. Fired, fueled and watered, number 1618 is now almost ready to depart. But first, there's a train to make up. Pulling out of Sheffield Park, 1618 runs straight onto Freshfield Bank and the long climb up to Horsted Keynes. Just north of Freshfield Halt, the U-Class slows to greet the permanent way gang. Arrival at Horsted Keynes, and here the passengers can disembark. The famous Ivot moguls are mixed traffic 260s, introduced by the LMS in 1946. One example, number 46443, can be seen on the preserved Severn Valley Railway. The first 20 of these 2MTs were built under the direction of H.G. Ivot, but production later continued under British Rail. They were designed to replace the aging small locomotives used on secondary and branch line duties. Despite the nickname Mickey Mouse, they were incredibly reliable and formed the basis for two of British Rail's standard designs which followed. They were popular with footplate crews, and despite having wheels only 5 foot in diameter, they were easily capable of speeds of up to 70 miles an hour. At Bewdley, number 46443 takes over from the Great Marquis at the head of the train to Bridgnorth. Number 46443 was one of 128 locomotives of the 2MT class. She was built in 1950 at Crewe at a cost of £8,734.
It was a second stop at Wedgwood anyway, wasn't it?
After 11 years at Derby on local passenger trains and as station pilot, the engine was transferred to Saltley for more pilot, shunting and trip work. She was overhauled following a collision with a Type 2 diesel. In 1966, she was transferred to Newton Heath, Manchester, the last haunt of the small Ivet moguls. Withdrawn in March 1967, she was bought by Mr. Richard Wilcox and became the Severn Valley Railway's second steam locomotive, taking an active part in the reopening of the line in 1970. In 1975, the engine ran in red livery for the film The 7% Solution, and since preservation has clocked up the highest mileage of all the Severn Valley locomotives. She is also operated on the national network. Steam was finally supplanted by diesel, but with the passage of time, some of these diesels are also celebrated classics, including the most successful of all British rail designs, the Class 37. Originally, this was the English Electric Type 3 diesel, which was derived from British Rail's pilot diesel scheme and first appeared in 1960. From the outset, it was an immediate success, extremely reliable and able to handle almost any type of train. Class 37s, with their distinctive noses and earthy growl, are still to be found all over the British Isles. Here in the Peak District, they operate out of Buxton and mainly haul limestone from the massive quarries which surround the town. Back in the Scottish Highlands, these magnificent engines can be seen at their best when passenger trains are hauled by real locomotives. Inverness is at the start of the Carl line, which crosses the wild northern highlands on the way to the Isle of Skye. The cab of the Class 37 is similar to that of most of the early English electric diesels. At the driver's left hand are both brake controls, while the power controls are on his right. At foot level, underneath the seat, is the dead man's straddle. This must be depressed regularly whenever the engine is moving. This wild landscape has never been an easy place to run locomotives, and in winter, the slow speed power of the Class 37 is always appreciated. West of Dingle is a steep climb to the summit. The country becomes even more barren, but the views are always spectacular. Further south, Class 37s still haul the evening sleeper from Fort William. This passes through some of Britain's most dramatic scenery, with mountains looming many thousands of feet above the line. The threat to withdraw this service generated massive protests throughout Scotland, and the authorities were forced to back down. Here at Tulloch, the line curves round into the Braes of Loch Harbour, heading for Roy Bridge as the early morning sleeper nears the end of its overnight run from Glasgow and London. Arriving in Fort William is Mary Queen of Scots, number 37401. With duties over, she runs around her train before returning to the depot. Built in 1965, Mary Queen of Scots has since been heavily refurbished. The original steam boiler has been replaced with more modern train heating equipment, and her main generator has been replaced by an alternator. Loch Long also dates from 1965. This is one of the Class 37s allocated to the Fort William depot. Today, she's been called upon to haul one of the summer excursion trains to Mallaig after dry weather and fire risk imposed a ban on the normal steam service. view down Loch Treg with the daily freight from the paper mill and aluminium works at Fort William. The Eurostar only appeared in 1994, yet this sleek international train is already a modern classic. Running beneath the channel between England, France and Belgium, they have to be able to swap between 3 different power supplies and are the fastest trains Britain has ever seen. The Class 373 is based at depots in England, France and Belgium, making it a truly international locomotive. GEC Alstom delivered the UK3 set early in 1994, and it was soon making test runs into Waterloo. The Eurostar sets, formerly known as Transmanche Supertrains, are based on the French TGV design. The Belgian set, UK1, appears at North Pole, the new international maintenance and servicing depot to which all the British units have been allocated. All the Eurostar sets are articulated with an extra motor bogie on the coach next to the power car. The push-pull Eurostar sets were never designed for towing. On delivery, the nose section has to be removed and a special match truck coupled before the set PS1 can be pulled away from the tunnel portal at Cheriton. Now we follow a set on one of the test rounds down through Kent, beneath the Channel and across northern France to Paris. Eurostar is capable of 187 miles per hour and operates on 3 power supply systems: 750 volt DC third rail, 25,000 volt AC overhead and 3,000 volt DC overhead. Finally, the SNCF set arrives at Gare du Nord. London to Paris in just 3 hours.